Welcome to episode 81 of the Valley Sports Talk podcast. We're back to me and Brandon tonight. As I dig for some food because I'm hungry. But we don't have beef fish tonight. As you can see, Brandon's wearing a cute new little hat. Even though his lighting in his room is absolutely terrible, so you can barely see
It
it.
is brutal. I look like a pixelated little boy.
You do. But yeah, I have mine. Not much better
Yours
lighting
is
to be
better.
honest. But anyways,
Yeah, really. We both suck. And that's why we're going to school soon, right?
true, very true. Better lighting, better Wi-Fi, better all the above. Anyways, yeah. So we're back with episode 81. Just Brandon and I tonight. Me and Brandon had a fantasy draft last night. We have our dynasty rookie draft tonight, and the trades are going off right now in that league. Everybody's trying to trade for picks, trying to trade for players. As B Fish has about probably 10 picks tonight in a 3-round draft, so he has a third of the draft picks. In a 10
Yeah,
man league.
honestly.
But he's got
How do
one.
you feel like your draft went last night?
I was actually kind of happy with it. A lot of players that I wasn't planning to take sort of just fell into my lap. So I was actually kind of happy. It's kind of hard in a 14 team league as me and you play each other in week one, so we'll see that.
Tell me your
My
your
team.
roster. Yeah.
Um Quarter, so do you want me to go round by round or does it just go?
No, just give me like your starters.
I got Jared Goff as my quarterback. My first round pick was Nick Chubb at the 111. I think I got Madison. He was my second pick. I got him in the fourth round, which I was kind of happy with that. I think his PPR is probably about there, but yeah, I was able to get that. I got in the second round, I got Garrett Wilson at 18. I thought that was a good pick there. And then I had to take at least one Falcon. He was just staring at me. So I grabbed Drake London. Um my tight ends, Mark Andrews. I got James Conner at my flex. Evan McPherson, my kicker, and Patriots D. And then some of the guys on my bench are Sky Moore, Jerick McKinnon, Romeo Dobbs, Gus Edwards, Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore. So yeah.
Yeah, this is a pretty good roster. I don't know how I feel about mine. Mine's gonna be either really good or really bad, I think. Um, Justin Herbert's my quarterback. My starting running backs are Chris McCaffrey and Miles Sanders. I picked up Chris Olave with my second pick, and then I think Keenan Allen with my third pick. Um, I also have Hollywood Brown in my flex right now. And then my tight end is Chig Okonkwo. I picked a tight end with my last pick. I decided to fade because everyone went tight end pretty early. Um, and then my whole bench is basically players who are probably not going to be good week one, but have a chance to be good if stuff falls their way. I decided in a 14 team league, you might as well go for just a shot in the dark, and if it hits, it hits. So my bench is Jahan Dotson, Jalen Addison, Rashad Penny, Zach Charbonnet, Kadarius Toney, Deontay Foreman, and then I went with a Packer with my last pick as well. I went Jalen Reed in case
Yeah, I think
in
my
case
last
he
pick. I
explodes.
think
So
I think my last pick was Romeo Dobbs, and that's basically because you think he's going to be good this year. So thanks for that.
I do.
I wasn't really going to take him, but
Yeah,
then
all my whole bench is young except for Rashad Penny.
I like the Charbonnet pick. I'm very high on him in our dynasty league tonight. Spoiler, he is going to be on my radar to try to pick up if he falls to me, as I don't have a first round pick, but I have a second. I have 3 seconds now that I've made a couple trades, but yeah, fantasy season starting to take off. I'm in another league. I'm in 3 leagues this year. But that draft isn't taking place till next weekend because it's a bunch of guys from school. So nobody is up in North Bay right now. So it's taking place next weekend. They're doing it live in person. So yeah, fantasy's starting to get on because football's starting to get on.
Yeah, it's exciting. I love fantasy. What can I say?
Me too. It takes honestly, I think Sleeper is like one of my most used apps right now because I'm just on fantasy all the time trying to make trades with people and stuff.
Oh, especially when you're in class and like a lecture or something that's super boring and long. Like when we were in math there last year. Holy jeez.
2 years
I was
ago.
on, oh yeah, I think sleeper was definitely my most used thing in that class.
I want to say I don't listen to lectures because my dad might be listening to this, but yeah, I agree.
Hi, David. Math was silly. It's okay. It was
Fair.
too easy. We could have passed
But
that
yeah,
even
we have
easier.
some other big news. Yesterday, your
Big
favorite
news.
hockey team re-signed or extended 34 Auston Matthews to a 4-year 13.25 to make him the highest paid player AAV. So he's in Toronto for the next 5 years, as he wasn't a free agent until after this coming season, which I believe will bring him to 30 years exactly, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. He's 25 right
Yeah.
now, 30 when his deal runs out. Before I give my thoughts, what are your thoughts?
Personally, I think it's a great deal. Yeah, the money's high, but when we first heard an Auston Matthews contract, it was up in the 14, 15 range, 14.5, 14. So to get him down to here is perfect. And like Noah said, it doesn't kick in this year, so he's still an $11.6 million player this year. And by the time his contract kicks in, the cap's supposed to go up by at least 2 mil every year. So his contract's just going to look better and better. This is the worst his contract will look. So if you take that into account, it's good. Another thing you can maybe think of that's good for the Leafs is, although it's a big number, um, it's a discount. He should be, if you look at the way he's played, he should be making more than this. Yes, he's the highest paid NHL player, but there's other players that underneath him that should be making more. Just their contracts haven't gone out yet. Um, so in my opinion, it's a discount, and because he took a discount, maybe we can get William Nylander at a discount. If he sees his players around him are taking them. If not, Willie's probably gone. But so I like it for that reason. And like I said, a lot of people are giving it hate because he's the highest paid NHL player, but the contract doesn't kick in until next year, so he's still not the highest paid player. And I believe Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl's contracts are coming to an end very shortly, so he will not be the highest paid player for very long. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
okay
believe
with it.
Drysaddle's done next year, so he's going to be looking for an
And he
extension.
will be the highest paid NHL player, I believe.
I don't think Matthews will be there. I'm going to go ahead and say that he's getting a little overpaid. I know it might be unpopular opinion, but I think he's a great player. Top 10, definitely, arguably top five. I would have given you top five easily 2 years ago, but after last year, maybe drop him just a little bit. Now the big thing for me is he gonna finally start to show up in the playoffs? Because over the last 4 years, your number one player in the playoffs is not one of your top four paid players. It's been William Nylander, and that's I don't think that's much of a debate. William Nylander has been the least best player in the playoffs the last couple of years. Um, so that's the one reason why I'm not the biggest fan. I believe that, or and also 4 years kind of scares me because I think if Toronto doesn't have any playoff success in the next 5 years, I don't think he's going to resign when he's 30. I actually think the Matthews camp did a great job not getting it over the 4 years. Bad for the Leafs side, but good for the Matthews side because in 5 years he'll be 30. He'll be right in the middle of his prime, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up staying in Toronto for his whole career, but he's giving himself the power to pick to not be, stapled in Toronto for his whole career, to give him a chance to maybe see free agency. I know you don't want to hear that, but I mean it's 5 years away. It's a long time, and I'm sure the Leafs are still going to have playoff success or success in general. But now I think it's time for him to prove everybody wrong, and I think he has to finally come to play in the playoffs and show why he deserves to get the most money in the NHL at this moment in time.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with a lot of your points. Like he does got to show up in the playoffs, and I think you and I both agree. Like a lot of people have been saying Toronto's crumbled in the playoffs, but I mean, as they have, I think you agree though. This is probably the best all around roster they've had in this playoff sort of window they've been going through the last 4 or 5 years.
I
Just
definitely
adding
agree
players
with
like Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi, um, they really make that a lineup. And I mean, the only thing I kind of disagree with is the fact that the 4 years is only good for Auston Matthews. I actually think it's good for the Leafs too. Yeah, there's the possibility of him walking, but if you have the sense that he's gonna walk, by the time he's in his last year of the contract, it yes, it's still a $13 million contract, but it won't, with the cap going up, it won't be a $13 million contract. So if you get the sense, there's at least options you can explore via trade. But still the 4 year, if he goes for 8 years, he's signing a 14 between 14 and $15 million contract. So for the Leafs, this was kind of the option to stay competitive with cap space and stuff. So I think it works out for both sides. Yes, obviously for Matthews, this is great because he's going to be 30, and by the time the cap goes up and by the time he's 30, like his contract will could very easily be $16 million, if not higher. Um, so yeah, I mean, I look at the contract and he's making 11.6 right now, which I believe I saw a post on it. It's like 16.7% of Toronto's cap or something. And when it turns to the 13, like with the cap going up, it's actually going to be less. So he's making less against the whole Toronto cap than he is right now. So for a player that we assume is going to have a better year because he did have some wrist problems, which slowed him down at the beginning. Um, for a player like Auston Matthews to be making less technically of Toronto's cap than he was before is, I think, is a steal for the Leafs.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I wasn't completely bashing on it. I think it's time for him to finally, now that he's gotten his big
100%.
payday, he has to show up in the playoffs, or else people or this contract might not look as good in 2 years, 3 years. If all of a sudden he doesn't show up and the Leafs don't say he gets stuck in the first round, second round, next 3 years, I don't think it's going to really look too good. I was seeing a lot of Leafs Twitter that people were comparing Matthews as the best all-round center in the league. What are your sort of opinions on that, and sort of where do you rank him sort of as a complete player?
See, I think when you talk about that, it's going to sound terrible because I'm a Leafs fan, but he's definitely up there. I mean, you take into account his goal scoring, I think he can easily put up 50.
We've seen him put up 60, so we know he can.
Exactly. Like I wouldn't be surprised if by the time this contract within the next 5 years he averages 50 goals a year. That should be pretty like just to say that
If
sounds
he stays
crazy, but
healthy,
the
if,
fact
if
that
he's 100% healthy,
yeah,
100%, for
the
sure.
fact that that's realistic and not that mind-boggling for him is ridiculous. He should be like he should be around a 90 to 100 point player every year.
Every year.
Um, and that's just his offense. Like the thing people don't, he's a really good defender. He blocked the most shots as a forward in the league last year. Um, he doesn't penalty kill very much, but then again, not many star players do. But he actually back checks, which a lot of star powered forwards don't do. Um, yeah, like not to toot his own horn, but he kind of reminds me in the defensive zone as like a Sidney Crosby, if we can bring in like Noah's favorite team. Sidney Crosby's always been known as a pretty good two-way forward himself. Um, it's just a good comparison because not many people put like back in the day put up points like Crosby and still played the defense Crosby played. And I think that's kind of where Matthews is. Like if you look at a lot of the centers, the high powered centers, sure they might be uh score more points. Like you, obviously, like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they'll score more points, but they don't play the defense like Matthews does. So I think that's where he gets an edge. So I think he's definitely up there. You can make an argument, 100%. I think the only thing, like you said, that I totally agree with is Toronto needs to win a playoff series, and fans and just general hockey people need to be able to say like Matthews was the reason Toronto won that series.
I
And
completely agree.
and like you can't say Matthews was the reason Toronto beat Tampa. And even if we look at the series before, like they most of Toronto series go to seven, and in any of the playoff appearances, I haven't been able to say, well, Matthews is the reason that went seven. Like, you know what I mean? It's
Yep.
just what I'm waiting to say.
So yeah, my one thing about you saying that Matthews, like, and you brought in Crosby, and obviously we know Crosby now is probably one of the better two-way players, if not one of the best top three two-way players in the league right now. Whenever Crosby was a rookie, he was only in the second percentile of defensive forwards. So like his growth from rookie to now where he is now is insane. So I think like obviously Matthews is only 25. He still has room to grow. We see that players grow into their two-way game. You saying that Matthews is already a decent defensive player, I don't see how he won't not get better. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree for sure.
But yeah, so looking at Matthews' contract and Nylander still looking for a contract. Matthews got a $2.2 million raise from his last salary. What do you think Nylander's raise will be?
See, it depends. If Nylander is a Leaf, it's got to be like he's asking for 8 for 10. I feel like it's got to be somewhere around the 8.5.
That's what
Like
I was
he's
gonna
got to
say,
come
eight and a
down
half. I
quite a
think I
bit.
think 8.5 is a good deal for both him and the Leafs.
I would totally agree, but so where both sides get enough, and I mean Willie just did a interview with
I
with
bring that
Elliot
up.
Friedman, and he was, Leafs fans are crazy, and he was like, guys, chill. Like I still have another full year here. I love being here. We'll see how it works. But I mean, then again, it's like I said, if it's still 10, if he won't budge on that, I think it's gonna have to happen somewhere else.
I totally agree. I don't think he's worth the 10, even though I was literally just raving about him earlier about how he's been Toronto's best playoff player. If he wants to be in Toronto, if he wants to try to do something in Toronto, like Toronto's trying to do, he's part of that core four, core five. You include Riley. Um, I think Matthews, like you said, Matthews took a pay cut, maybe because he didn't get the 8 years, like you said. But I think Nylander has to compromise somewhat. If they get him for like 6, 7 years at 8.5, I think that's a good deal for both sides.
Yeah, I mean, like everybody that leaves Toronto in this little cup run they've had, they said, well, like they get asked why do they leave, and they said they love playing in Toronto, but the media's insane. You can't win with this many people making this much money, right? So like if they all want to chill with the media, they want the media to be off their backs. You gotta win, and to win, every team that's won has taken pay cuts so they can add more players and make the best possible team, right? So the pay cuts are gonna have to happen eventually. We'll see what happens with Willie, but if he can take a pay cut, I mean, it'll only help him for the future. I mean, again, it doesn't help him for this year because all their contracts are set, but the future of this team is is really dependent on what Willie does with his next contract.
Um, if you don't have any more NHL, we'll completely flip to football because there is a disgruntled star running back. Jonathan Taylor has been given permission to seek a trade since obviously he hasn't gotten paid the way he probably wants to. I'm a firm believer that running backs should not get paid a lot and that they're very replaceable. I will preach that till they prove me otherwise. One team we know for sure that is in. There's two teams apparently that are talking with the Colts right now. One is Miami. First of all, what do you think a realistic Jonathan Taylor trade looks like? And who do you think maybe the other team that is involved could be?
Yeah, so like what a trade would be, I mean, the Colts have come out and say they want either a first round draft pick or a first round talent. So they're looking for a first. Um, I don't, I don't know. I don't think personally a trade will even happen. Um, I just think if the Colts don't want to pay Jonathan Taylor what he wants. We've seen other teams around the league not paying running backs what they want. Um, the Dolphins already have 3 running backs, all NFL usable. I don't see why I don't see why a Jonathan Taylor trade would work, because if you think about it, like if you're Miami, you have to trade a first round pick and he's still unsigned, so you still have to sign him, right? And does he have a contract for this year and he's looking for next year?
It's this year. He's signed this year.
Okay, but so yeah, if you trade a first round pick, you get him for this year, but then next year he's gonna want that. He's still looking for that same money, right? So if you're not gonna pay him, you're basically sending a first round pick for a 1 year rental. And I don't see how many teams would want to do that because his contract price is not going to come down, right? He's pretty set on it. He seems pretty firm on that. So I personally I see Jonathan Taylor playing for the Colts this year.
Yeah, I don't think that, like I said, I think Jonathan Taylor is a top running back. Excuse me. He's young, he 2 years ago he was the best running back in the league. Bit of a down year last year compared to what he was, but he was still a good running back. So it makes sense that the Colts would want a first for him because I feel like he's a good running back, but I don't think that's a value for running back. I think a more realistic trade is a day two pick, is a third and maybe a third and a fifth. I think is not a maybe not fair, but I think that's what most teams would be willing to do for a running back that, like you mentioned, is only going to be there for 1 year before wanting to get massively paid. And we saw it didn't happen with Saquon. Saquon had a better year than JT did last year. Josh Jacobs still hasn't reported to camp because he's looking for a deal. The running back market is just getting disgruntled right now. Like all the running backs are disgruntled. There's no market for running backs right now. So it's going to be really hard, I think, for the Colts to get the value that they think they could get for Jonathan Taylor and the value that Jonathan Taylor wants on his next contract.
Yeah, I totally agree, which is why I think he'll play for the Colts. And like I said before, it's that, and you also got to take into account for the teams that are trading for him. If you're not willing to pay that money, you're getting a 1 year rental. So yeah, I don't think much will come of that. Speaking of another team that's running into situations, um,
All right, it's got dinner.
Trey Lance. Yeah, I saw that. Looks good. Trey Lance was just named the third quarterback, and I'm hearing a lot of trade scenarios there. Um, like what if you're San Fran, what would a team have to offer you for you to say yes?
Okay, well, he's a former third overall pick. Like the one thing that I don't, not that I don't like, but I don't understand, he didn't really have a chance to prove himself. He hasn't proved himself yet. He played in like what I think he's played in 3 games last year before he snapped his leg, and then Brock Purdy just sort of went on that streak. Even though I don't think Brock Purdy's a very good quarterback, he's a winning guy. Like he's proven he can win, with San Fran. But going back to your question, what do you think it is? I don't think there's much interest there. Like John Lynch came out today and said that they might just hold on to him. So I think that's just a cover for saying, yeah, not very many teams are giving us very much for him, if at all. You know what I mean?
Mhm. I
Like
no, I totally
we just
agree.
saw today a former ninth overall pick 2 years ago go for a seventh round pick. I know it's quarterback's a premium position and a value position, but he was a first overall pick 2 years ago, number 9 overall. It was Isaiah Simmons going to the Giants for a seventh. So I wouldn't be surprised if all that San Fran's getting is like a sixth round pick for him.
Honestly, yeah, that sounds ridiculous in theory, but I was listening to a podcast today that was talking about the same situation, and they came up with a hypothetical trade, and the team was sending San Fran a fourth, and the guy who had to react to it in the podcast said, if San Fran's getting a fourth round pick for Trey Lance, you say yes immediately.
If
Like
I think if San Fran's getting a fourth round pick for Trey Lance is already traded right now. Like the time we're recording.
that's what I mean. That's what he thought. He was like that a fourth round pick is too much,
Yeah,
which is
like yeah.
crazy to say from a
If
from a
if yeah, like you're about to say, it's crazy to say that a third overall pick, I think 2 years ago, is only worth at most. This guy thinks a fourth round pick gets it done yesterday. So
And so this is funny. So as I was listening to this podcast, I was like, that's crazy to think about. And then I thought about our dynasty fantasy league, thinking about it. There's an option you can look at draft results from any previous draft we've had in this league. So I look back at our
ooh,
opening dynasty draft
he
to
probably went
create
like
teams.
third, second round.
Uh he he went where is he here? Trey Lance
Maybe
went a
not
lot
because
later than I thought.
he was
He
because
went
Jimmy
ninth.
G was still there.
Yeah, he went ninth round, but still it got it's not even that. It's just looking back at the draft, like how quickly things change. Like for example, not to hate on you, you picked Clyde Edwards-Helaire with your third pick.
Yeah, I know that was
Didn't
bad.
go
Didn't go too
anywhere.
well.
I'm just looking like I picked Justin Jefferson with my fourth round pick.
Took Kyler
Just
Murray
looking,
ahead of me, right? One before me in the first round.
yeah, it's crazy. Like, uh, who went? Like David Montgomery went before Joe Mixon, which is crazy. Austin Eckler went in the fifth round.
Wow.
Cooper Kupp went in the sixth round at the end of the sixth round, and Jamar Chase was right before Cooper Kupp. Like people
Wow.
like pe Allen Robinson was picked before them too. Like
Crazy.
the draft is crazy. Like and looking at it, this was a 28 round draft. Um, a guy like where was it here? Um, Jalen Waddle went in the 15th round.
He was a rookie that year, wasn't he?
Yeah,
That's
like
crazy. I don't know.
just it's
Like if
crazy how things
looking
work.
back at that, obviously you can't take back the future, but looking back at that, I had probably had so many, me and you both, we had so many opportunities to take like shots at these players. I took a shot. What I take? I took Najee like 16th overall, and I just traded him away an hour ago.
Yeah, you took Najee second. Yeah, you started your draft off Herbert, Najee, Clyde, Joe Burrow, Terry McLaurin, Keenan Allen, Brandon Ayuk, Chase
Um,
Edmonds, Laviska Shenault, Noah Fant, uh, and then you took Amon-Ra St. Brown with your 14th round.
my team is completely like
Yeah.
Monroe St. Brown went before Joe and Waddle. Not saying that that's a bad
Yeah.
pick looking at it now, but like
Obviously you still have both your quarterbaks, but let
you
me
want me to
go
go
down
through
your
my starting
roster and
lineup
you
right now?
tell me you tell me I'm gonna go down your draft. You tell me when I name someone you still currently have on your team that you drafted, okay?
Okay, other
We're
than
gonna
the
ditch your
quarterback,
quarterbacks because
other than the
obviously
quarterback.
you're gonna keep Herbert and Burrow.
So I
You
just had
got
Najee. I had Najee
Najee,
up until an hour ago.
so it doesn't count. You got Najee, Clyde,
No,
Terry McLaurin, Keenan Allen, Brandon Ayuk, Chase Edmonds, Laviska Shenault, Noah Fant, Elijah Moore, Logan Thomas, Henry Ruggs, Monroe St. Brown, Gus Edwards, Boston Scott, Traquan Smith, Brian Edwards, Malcolm Brown, Tutu Atwell, AJ Green, MVS, N'Keal Harry, Tavion Coleman, and Josh Reynolds. That's your roster.
not a
Not a
single.
single person. That's crazy. That's crazy. You totally switched. I mean, you've been competitive every year, so it works, I guess.
Yeah, like
It's
I don't
crazy though.
like none of these guys. Literally, not a single guy in my starting lineup or bench, other than my receivers and Najee Harris until an hour ago have been on my team. So I've only until an hour ago I had three guys from my remaining draft.
You've done some trades, man.
I
You've
have,
done
but I
some
have a good
trades.
team.
You have a good
I'm
team. You
actually
have a good
really high
team.
on my team this year.
Yeah, I like your team as well. Yeah, so I mean, lastly, I guess we should being Canadians we should talk about the Blue Jays real quick.
Yep.
Um, the Boston Red Sox just manhandled the Houston Astros 17-1 earlier today. We are filming on Thursday, right before the Blue Jays play their final game against Baltimore. Um, Currently before their game against Baltimore, they are a game back of the Mariners and the Astros in that wild card spot. They do not hold the tiebreaker against the Mariners. They
You
do
against
hold
the
the
Astros.
tiebreaker against the Astros. Um, Obviously, the game against the Orioles is huge. If they win, they're a half a game back of both. If they lose, they're a game and a half back of both. Um, the thing for the Blue Jays is their next five series are against the Cleveland Guardians, the Washington Nationals, the Colorado Rockies, the Oakland Athletics, and the Kansas City Royals.
If they don't win, if they don't win every single one of those series, they do not deserve to be in the playoffs. Enough said.
Yeah, this is where
This is
obviously,
where this is time to put up or shut up. We literally heard Gosman come out yesterday and say that urgency needs to be there. Urgency
yeah,
needs to be there. You're playing against five teams that aren't going to make the playoffs. You have to win these series.
yeah, when the best team you're playing in the next five series stretches under 500, you got to be winning series. You got to sweep one of these series. Um, yeah, you can't afford to lose any of these. I mean, like we've seen the Blue Jays might have the best pitching in the AL, top to bottom.
100%.
When you include their bullpen, their pitching is nasty. They can't score runs, and when you're playing like bad teams like this, maybe this is the time their bats start to wake up because when you're playing bad teams, they struggle to score, obviously. So you probably won't have, if you can average 5 runs a game, you're going to win most of these games with the pitching they have. It'd be nice to see their bats step up a little bit. Brandon Belt's woken up.
Brandon
Varshow's
Bell's been
really
their
woken up.
Brandon Bell's been their best hitters in the last month.
Yeah, Brandon Belt has been amazing. Couldn't ask for, if you told me this is what we were going to get when we signed him, I would have taken it
You
100%.
hated him at the first weeks this season.
He was just a lot of swing and miss. He's really locked in on the, because when we signed him, everyone said he's not a power hitter, but he'll take long at bats. In the first month this season, he was a lot of swing and miss. There wasn't a whole lot of decision making there, and not a whole lot
I
of good
think that's the
eyesight. But he
fact that
really
he
turned that
he
around.
didn't he was hurt a lot. He was coming off knee surgery. He didn't play very much in
Yeah,
spring training. So I think like the first month was his spring training, and we've seen that come to fruition.
yeah, for sure. I was probably a little quick on me to judge, but um, so yeah, I'm really waiting for these bats to wake up, specifically
Vladdy, oh my God,
Vladdy and Springer, if he could get a little power back in that bat. Starting the average for Springer starting to get back up, but the power's still not there. He is getting a little older though, so we'll see.
Vladdy's
The
approach is killing me,
Vladdy's approach is brutal.
killing me.
Like his average is pretty average among the MLB, but he's hitting singles. Like he went 3 for 4, and I think all three hits were
He had a
singles.
double.
Like
There's two
Vladdy's not a
singles and a
single
double.
hitter.
Two singles and a double.
Vladdy's not a single hitter. That's not who he is.
He
And
just
and
got
he
lost.
you
He
should
hasn't
see
lifted
he's
the
not
ball.
crushing the fastball.
Nope. I don't know.
Eh,
He's also been the worst defensive first baseman in the league this year.
yeah,
After winning a
he's been
Gold Glove last
questionable.
year. So I think Vladdy as a whole needs to step up his game. You know, I'm not as sort of confident in giving him a $300 million contract extension for 15 years now as I would have been at the start of the season. I think he's probably worth half that at the production he's given the Jays right now.
Yeah, it's so frustrating to watch because not even being a homer, with the pitching this team has, they are a legit World Series contender. Like it doesn't for a team that's not even in the playoffs to be able to say that, it's kind of crazy. But like runs go way down in the playoffs. And with the pitching the Blue Jays have, like if you score 4 runs in a playoff game, if you're the Blue Jays, you got a good chance to win that thing. Like it's
Pitching
just
and
their
bullpen,
bats
they
need to
have
wake up.
The Jays bullpen has the best ERA, WHIP, and FIP in August. Like since the trade deadline, they
Yeah.
are the best bullpen in the league. Which I don't
Which has
think
really changed because a couple years ago their bullpen was terrible.
that's what I was about to say. I don't think I've ever been able to say that the Jays have had a good bullpen. It's always been the reason that they suck. You know, the starters have been decent. I mean, the bullpen has always just lost games for them.
So yeah, I mean this stretch, I mean the up until mid-September, it's really going to show, and then basically they just end the season off going against a bunch of AL East teams. So
Which they suck against this year.
which they suck against, yeah. But it's going to be big for the Blue Jays here. I really do think they're going to make the playoffs. I also think the Mariners are going to make the playoffs. I think it's going to be the Astros or the Texans who follow because
Texans,
the
you mean the Rangers?
Texans are only a game up.
And the Rangers?
Sorry, yeah, the Rangers. I always call them the Texans.
Wrong sport, but
They're only a game up
yeah, I
of
know
the
they have
Astros
been
and the
the
Mariners.
Texas Rangers, the Rangers have been playing
Did I
very
call them the Texans again?
yeah, you did.
Jeez.
The Rangers have been playing not very good base. Both Texas teams have not been playing good baseball as of late. It's just
Yeah,
the
we'll
Mariners
see how
are on
that
a
goes.
9 game win streak.
Yeah, I mean it is what it is. Um, yeah, so I mean that's Blue Jays talk for you. Just a little intro into week one. I want to do a quick segment.
We have
You just got to rattle off yeah, it would be super easy. I'm gonna go down the week one schedule, and you got to
okay
tell me who you think the betting favorite is. Okay?
betting.
The
Just
betting
the
favorite.
spread.
No, just by if you were to bet money line, who do you think
Okay,
is the favorite? Chiefs Lions.
Chiefs,
Wow, he's 1 for 1. Baltimore, Houston.
Baltimore,
Oh, he's 2 for 2. Atlanta, Carolina.
Atlanta,
Not by much. 3 for 3. Cincinnati, Cleveland.
Cincy.
Only by 1.5 points. That's the closest one so
Really?
far. 49ers, Steelers.
Niners,
That's only 2.5 points. Commanders Cardinals.
Commanders.
Somehow Commanders are favored by 7 in that game. Tampa Bay, Minnesota.
Mini.
Look at this kid's a menace right now. Jacksonville and Indianapolis.
Jacksonville.
Only
Duval.
by 4 points. Tennessee, New Orleans.
Ooh, this is a tough one.
This is a tough one.
I'm gonna go Tennessee.
It's New Orleans. You got your first one incorrect. Uh, Miami, LA Chargers.
I'm gonna go Miami, even though I'd put my money on the Chargers.
The Chargers are 3-point favorites. Seattle and LA Rams.
Seattle, even though I think the Rams are better.
Seattle is favorite. The Eagles and the Patriots.
Didn't you already say the Patriots?
Nope,
Oh, Eagles.
only by 4 points. Um, the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears.
I'm gonna say Packers.
The Chicago Bears are favored.
Wow.
I know, that's some heat.
I might
The
take I
Cowboys.
might take the Packers in week 1.
Yeah, no
Underdog.
kidding. The Cowboys and the Giants.
Cowboys.
Cowboys are favored. And the Monday night matchup, Bills Jets.
Oh, I want to say Jets, but I feel like it's the Bills.
It's in New York.
So it's the Bills.
It's the Bills. Well, you only got 3 wrong. That's pretty good.
I'll take that. I'm happy with that. I might have to go money line on the Jets and the Jets and the Packers.
No kidding. I do a little part.
Parlay makes some money. Thank you very much. How are you?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think
Sweet.
we'll wrap it up there though. I haven't talked to Brandon about this, but I think next week we're gonna try to have an interview in the show.
Cool.
He has no idea about it. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed, make sure you leave a
What's
like
new?
and subscribe to never miss an episode, and we will see you guys next week.
See ya.